Welcome to Metal Mastermind. Here on this show, we're going to tell you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to become a successful metal musician in the world today.
We've got a really interesting this versus that comparison video for you today.
What is the difference between a cheap or inexpensive interface versus a high-quality, expensive audio interface? Why should you buy one over the other?
Guys, before we get started here, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and ding that little bell so that you get the notifications every time we crank out a video like this one. And
be sure to check out the end of this video where you're going to get access to something really neat, something you could use for yourself at home. So today's victims are a $99 interface and a $600 interface. Same brand, same manufacturer.
So we're going to use the EVH 5153 50 watt amp here, it's the EL34 tube version, and we're gonna mic it up with a good old Shure SM57.
Now let's explain the subject, the guitar. Using this guitar is a perfect example of how it's going to actually be used in the type of music we create. Let's talk about miking guitars for a second, right? This is a traditional way to mic a guitar. We have been miking guitars like this for such a long time. Using a classic microphone like the SM57, which came out in the 60s, is still prevalent today. So we can use this type of technique because one, it's the sound that we know, and two, it just plain works, right? So why change the equation? Use it. It's simple, the mic is cheap, and it does a hell of a good job. And to be honest, professionals still use this thing on almost every single record that's out there. So the guitar is our control variable in this experiment. What we're going to change is the audio interface. So we're going to have the same performance, and it's just going to be played through a different interface for each of the ones. But the differences that you hear should not be volume. They should be tonal color. And that's what we're after. We're trying to see if, are we getting something different in terms of sonic characteristics with one interface or the other one? So listening to these guitars by themselves is fine and dandy, but nobody ever really just uses a guitar by itself. I mean, unless you're just doing a solo classical thing, but you're probably not using an electric guitar for that anyway. So we're going to use this in the context of a mix, right? That's where it counts. So let's see how this sounds with some backing tracks. I don't know if I hear too much of a difference. And that's great news because for you guys, you can rest easy knowing that what you're buying out there has a lot of value for the money. That's amazing that we live in a day and age where we don't have to worry so much about the quality of what we're buying. A lot of the manufacturing process has gotten so much more advanced today that the consistency between devices is pretty top notch. So you can count on getting a pretty decent sound right off the bat with a simple interface that costs 99 bucks.
So we want to tell you some things to look for in interfaces because there are times where you may need a more expensive interface, and we want to talk to you about that. And there are many times though that you can probably get by with a cheaper interface.
Now, granted, we use the same kind of interface. We had a PreSonus interface brand on one side and a PreSonus interface brand on the other. And you might be thinking, well, what if I went Focusrite? What if I went Neve? What if I went Antelope? Universal Audio. You might find some differences there. And that has a lot to do with the dynamic range, which is what is the loudest sound you can record versus the softest sound? What is the frequency response? Although a lot of these days picks up pretty much anything. But are there any other components inside? Does it have a transformer? Does it use a tube? These kinds of things do add color. And you want to be educated enough to know that what you buy, is it going to be colorless, pretty much like the ones we heard? Or is it going to be colorful? And that's a big selling point for a lot of these manufacturers. And the last and final thing is the conversion quality. Now, what is conversion? Well, in audio, conversion is when you want to transform an analog signal into a digital one, or vice versa. Now, the quality of conversion, there might be a couple of things to consider. Most converters nowadays are pretty spot on and they're good at what they do. But, converters do differ a little bit from company to company. Some might be a little bit more accurate than others. And that might be based on what we call the clock. How fast and how in sync are these recordings? Something to consider. But it's not really at the top of the totem pole. So don't even worry too much about it unless you're really looking for that 1% difference. What's even more important is, do you need something more portable? Do you need something that has more inputs and outputs? These are the questions you should be asking yourself when you're shopping around. Don't worry so much about that magical 1%. That's like negligible if you could hear it at all. People debate over cables for Pete's sake. So don't even worry about that so much. Worry about really the functionality of this item that you're buying. You want to make sure that you're going to future-proof the workloads that you have.
Those are great points. It really depends on what you're using your interface for. Like myself here, I'm a solo artist, right? So I'm in this small studio. It's just me. I don't need a souped-up interface. I need a quality interface, of course, but most of the interfaces out there these days they're pretty top-notch, to be honest with you.
So what do we recommend? We recommend having something that meets your requirements and gives you just a little bit of breathing room so that you can have some creative sessions. You really don't want to be stuck between a rock and a hard place in this situation. If you want to be able to open up your doors to collaboration, you might want to have that extra room to do that sort of thing. You could also just stick to one microphone preamp and having a keyboard plugged into USB and doing MIDI virtual instruments the entire time, and all you need is vocals. Sometimes you need a little more, and you never know when you may need that. So we do recommend that you have a little bit of flexibility. So as I promised earlier, we've got a free gift for you, a quick guide to building your ultimate home studio. The link is in the description below, so be sure to sign up for that email list so that you can get it for yourself and do it the right way at the most efficient cost for you.
Guys, if you have any questions at all, please leave those in the comments. We'll be happy to jump in and answer. Ken and I started this channel, Metal Mastermind, for you, for metal musicians. So we want to help you any way that we can.
All right, guys, be sure to check us out every Wednesday at 12 p.m. We go live and we talk about this stuff with you in the mix. Be sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and you'll get notified on any of the videos that come out every week.
Until the next video, horns up.
Horns up. This is Metal Mastermind.